Welcome, friends. Are you sitting comfortably? Then let me tell you a tale, one whispered on the winds of the northern Scottish coast, where the sea holds its secrets and the mist carries the echoes of ancient songs. It is a story of love, loss, and the dangers that lie beneath the waves, a story of the Ceasg, the fabled mermaid of the Highlands, and the warning she left behind. The village of Ballamara clung to the rugged coastline of northern Scotland, its stone cottages huddled together as if bracing against the relentless winds that swept in from the North Sea. It was August, and the air was heavy with the scent of salt and seaweed. The days were long, but the mornings were cool, and the fog rolled in thick and low, swallowing the horizon and blurring the line between sea and sky. The villagers were a hardy folk, their lives tied to the rhythm of the tides, their livelihoods drawn from the bounty of the ocean. Among them was Callum, a young fisherman with a heart as restless as the waves. Callum lived with his mother and father in a small, weathered cottage at the edge of the village. His father, a seasoned fisherman, had spent his life battling the sea, and his mother, with her soft hands and kind eyes, had spent hers waiting for his safe return. Callum had inherited his father's strength and his mother's quiet determination, but he was also filled with a yearning for something more, something beyond the horizon. On this particular morning, the village was still shrouded in darkness when Callum rose from his bed. The air was damp and cool, and the faint cry of gulls echoed through the mist. His mother was already awake, her hands busy kneading dough for the day's bread. She looked up as Callum entered the kitchen, her face lined with worry. "Be careful out there," she said, her voice soft but firm. "The sea is restless today." Callum smiled and kissed her cheek. "Don't worry, Ma. I'll be back before you know it." His father was waiting by the door, his weathered face set in a grim expression. Together they made their way down to the harbor, where their small fishing boat bobbed gently in the water. The fog was thick, wrapping around them like a shroud, and the only sound was the creak of the wooden planks beneath their feet. As they pushed off from the dock and set out to sea, the world seemed to shrink around them. The fog swallowed the village, the cliffs, and even the sky, leaving only the boat and the endless expanse of gray water. The air was still, the only movement the gentle lapping of the waves against the hull. They worked in silence, casting their nets into the water and waiting for the sea to yield its treasures. The hours passed slowly, the fog refusing to lift, and a strange unease settled over Callum. It was then that he heard it, a faint, haunting melody carried on the wind. It was unlike anything he had ever heard before, a song so beautiful and sorrowful that it seemed to pierce his very soul. "Do you hear that?" Callum asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His father shook his head, his brow furrowed. "Hear what?" "The singing," Callum said, his eyes scanning the mist. "It's coming from the water." His father's face darkened, and he gripped Callum's arm. "Pay it no mind," he said sharply. "It's nothing but the wind." But Callum couldn't ignore it. The song grew louder, more insistent, and he felt an irresistible pull, as if the very sea were calling to him. He leaned over the side of the boat, peering into the depths, and for a moment he thought he saw something, a flash of silver, a glimmer of scales. "Callum!" his father shouted, but it was too late. The boat rocked violently as Callum plunged into the water, the cold biting into his skin. The song enveloped him, drowning out his father's cries, and he felt himself sinking, drawn deeper and deeper into the abyss. The world above faded away, replaced by a shimmering, otherworldly light. And then he saw her. The Ceasg was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Her long golden hair floated around her like a halo, and her eyes, as green as the sea, held a sadness that seemed to stretch across centuries. Her lower half was that of a fish, her scales glinting like jewels in the dim light. She reached out to him, her touch as soft as a whisper, and he felt his fear melt away. "Come with me," she said, her voice like the song of the waves. "I will show you wonders beyond your wildest dreams." Callum hesitated, his heart torn between the promise of the unknown and the life he was leaving behind. He thought of his mother waiting by the hearth and his father shouting his name into the mist. But the Ceasg's eyes held him captive, and he found himself nodding, unable to resist her allure. She smiled, and together they descended into the depths, the water growing colder and darker with each passing moment. Callum felt his breath leave him, his lungs burning, but the Ceasg held him close, her song wrapping around him like a cocoon. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The villagers found Callum's boat adrift later that day, his father slumped over the side, his face pale and his eyes filled with grief. Of Callum, there was no sign, only the faint echo of a song carried on the wind. They say that on foggy mornings, if you listen closely, you can still hear the Ceasg's song, a haunting melody that serves as a warning to all who venture too close to the sea. And though Callum's mother never stopped waiting by the door, her bread left to grow cold on the table, she knew in her heart that her son was gone, lost to the depths and the lure of the Ceasg. So, my friends, the next time you find yourself by the sea, remember this tale and tread carefully, for the ocean is vast and full of secrets, and not all of them are meant to be uncovered.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.